Welcome back to the Bazaar. I'm Inko, and I'll be doing patch notes videos like this anytime a hotfix comes out unannounced and there's just no patch notes and no communication. So, seeing as Tempo Storm won't tell you what's going on, I will. I would like it if they started doing like any degree of communication. Right now, when they do updates, they just sort of go out, there's no warning, the servers get unstable, and then the game changes. And if you stay in game, your tooltips don't even update. So people just have their items doing new things that is not what the text reflects. Everyone's horribly confused, it's a mess, it's a bad time. It creates paranoia. In one of my recent runs, I didn't know if there was a bug introduced in the new patch or if something had been hotfixed and broken. Anyway, the point of this whiny preface is that the entire community would really appreciate having patch notes and any sort of announcements and communication involving the balance of the game. Now, getting into the hotfixes, I say hotfixes plural because there are two. The first one a couple of days ago really didn't matter, didn't need to be talked about. They changed the shield enchant on Chris Army Knife, barely matters. And then very weirdly, it was re-implemented to have the slow enchant be a flashbang grenade on Energy Potion. I thought of the 5 nerfs that Energy Potion took, this was very clearly the best, most unambiguously good change, was removing this enchant. Now it's just one trip to Curio or one Boiling Flask for multicast away from slowing your opponent's board forever. Again, I don't really know why it needs to do this, it just seems like a disgustingly good enchant for no reason. But okay, that's back. They also changed this to freeze all enemy items as opposed to small. It's only an 0.5 second duration, so I can kind of get behind that. I just don't necessarily think that this is a good design for an enchant. It creates incredibly high variance. But the reason this video exists is because of Hotfix 3, which contains incredibly important hotfix nerfs for Mac, because the latter was dominated by one card, Vat of Acid. If your build took more than 7 seconds to do its thing past day 9, your build was not going to go 10 wins unless opponent RNG was kind to you. And that's because Vat of Acid Mac could consistently find Vat of Acid and assemble it to a veritably instantly lethal amount of damage in every single run. If you got to 10 wins with a build that did not somehow get under Vat of Acid, then it was entirely by the grace of opponent RNG. It needed to get nerfed, and it did. But first, let's cover the other changes. There's some minor stuff that's not a big deal, like Shadowed Cloak having its enchant changed to double its damage bonus, so it doesn't essentially skip tiers if you get Obsidian on a much lower tier cloak. Not a big deal. It's also universally worse. No version of the cloak was this good, although the cloak often went on crit things, which meant it was close to that good. Could be better on a cutlass, that sort of thing. I think this is just a better way for it to work, not a big deal. Next up, Dualtron took a nerf. Anyone who thinks Dualtron Dually is still like a pay-to-lose set, well, 1, monetization changed, that doesn't exist anymore, and that's fantastic. But 2, Dualtron Dually is a menace. Dualtron in the like mid-game to early late game is actually pretty good. It needed this shield nerf because it was a frankly unreasonable amount of durability. But the bugs in general just fit into so many boards and smooth out Dually's gameplay so much. It's a very strong package, and I expect to see some more bug nerfs before this month is over. The big changes are in the max section. Next, we have earrings. This is not a big deal. Previously, when you slow burn 3 was really disgustingly strong. Just burn 3 as part of the active makes more sense. Laboratory needed this change. It previously could enchant itself, or at least it said it could. In my experience, it bugged out and didn't do that. And then, whether it enchanted itself or started off enchanted, it would proceed to charge itself, essentially giving it a 2-second cooldown. Now it can no longer enchant or charge itself. This is really valuable. It just seems like how the game should work. It helps avoid really nonsensical things like a double laboratory setup or a laboratory plus library setup, where you just instantly, infinitely trigger the laboratory and it charges all your other stuff, so everything is instant and infinite, and it's very, very gross. This is just a needed integrity change because the card was doing way more than it was intended to do, although I wonder if it ever does enough to be worth playing in its current state. Next up, I have to mention these patch notes that I'm using from howbazaar.gg. While I greatly appreciate them as they are the only resource I can go to figure out what the hell happened in the hotfix, I don't know if they're fully complete. The only 2 remaining listed changes are Potion Distillery and Vat of Acid. The chunk of gold was nerfed. When you transmute a chunk of lead, you get a chunk of gold. They used to be worth 5, 10, 20, 40 gold. Now they're worth 5, 10, 15, and I assume 20 gold at diamond. I haven't seen a new diamond chunk of gold, I've only seen the gold tier of it. And I mention that now because Potion Distillery had the haste tag removed, and it claims no hidden tags added. If this is true, this is a really bad change. Potion Distillery is admittedly not a haste item, but it is a cooldown item, which means it's supposed to be at tox clocks. And coming over to Potion Distillery, you can see its tags are just ammo reference tool. It is not a cooldown item currently and did not receive that in the patch according to howbazaar.gg. If this is true, The only item in the game that reliably transmutes every hour is no longer showing up at Tox Clocks, which is specifically a store that should filter down towards this item and really help you to find it. And it not showing up there is, one, very deceptive and confusing to new players who don't know this, and two, explicitly a bug that they've added by changing this tag. And since players cannot see tags, this is only something you know about by researching the game, this is not even like a bug fix, this just makes the game have a bug. And that's because previously it was wrong in the way that got it to the correct conclusion, and now it isn't. Admittedly, it probably showed up in other places it shouldn't because of the haste tag, but I'd argue this is a worse evil, and the cooldown tag better be showing up in the next patch, otherwise I'm just downright confused. But saving the most important change for last, the whole point of this video to get the word out, Vat of Acid is dead. This card was an abomination. It was so incredibly strong. Because it previously scaled off the poison on your enemy, there were a myriad of ways to just have this essentially go off and deal so much burn that your enemy died immediately. Number 1 on the list was Strength Potion plus Boiling Flask, because that would cause it to deal not this item's poison, but 20 times this item's poison. Vat of Acid essentially completely and utterly warped the meta and vastly changed the landscape of what builds were playable. It is single-handedly the reason I have not been playing Pig in this patch. And now that it's gone, while Mac might have things that are overpowered, with Athenor Secret Formula being fixed and with Vat of Acid being fixed, I think we might finally have something approaching a healthy meta, including Mac. I am a little bit worried that Mac still has some outliers that are quite strong, and I'm very worried about Dualtron Dually, because there's a lot of gross stuff you can do with the bugs. Number 1 on the list is just running 4 bugs, including the freeze bug, with Robotics Facility and Bulldozer, and you just full lock out your opponent using that. It hardly matters what comes next as the king of the meta, though. The important thing is that Vat of Acid was impressively strong, drowning out build diversity, and far too consistent. Do I think this nerf probably kills the card? Frankly, yeah, probably, right? It might be like a thing where you build around it and it deals 400 poison, 400 burn now, which is like not terrible, but that's not a thing I'm going to be trying to pivot into every run. It's just something where like if I get it early enough, it'll make sense to go into. And that's sort of where Flagship lives, so maybe that'll be a healthy place for the card. I don't know if it's egregiously underpowered or if it's right where it should be. It's always hard to judge when you nerf a card in this extreme of a capacity, right? The important thing, though, is that it needed a nerf, and it needed a nerf quickly, and I'm glad it got one. Before I wrap this up, I would like to give a message to the Tempo devs, assuming that this somehow ever reaches their ears. The phrase joy of discovery was used when describing, like, not using patch notes and letting people dynamically discover what's happening. I want to be clear. Finding out that this isn't what Vat of Acid does anymore is not the joy of discovery. If your entire game plan was to get the things you need to pivot into Vat of Acid, and then you find out that your build around has been changed with no notice, you don't feel joy. In fact, if you are playing mid-run, the servers become unstable for some reason, and then when you reconnect, your Vat of Acid reads the same text, but then just doesn't deal any burn, you're not going to feel joy at all. You're going to feel rage, confusion, and eventually be like, oh, all right, I wish that had been communicated in some way. The joy of discovery is not what no communication brings. To me, the whole joy of discovery thing strikes me as a sour grapes argument, where after having transparency go terribly wrongly with this, because, you know, people were very upset about this monetization method, just don't get patch notes anymore, screw them. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I am saying that's how it feels for people who play your game. And I want to be clear that it wasn't an issue with transparency, because there are a total of 11 words under subscriptions. This isn't transparent. That's part of the problem. And the video with Reynad does not fully explain what this is either. It took a lot of effort for people to understand what the monetization system offered even was. And the old system was pay to win. The devs who have changed this system must know that this was a bad system, and the backlash to it was justified. It wasn't backlash because of transparency. It wasn't backlash because of patch notes. It was backlash because of a bad change. That's unavoidable no matter what system is used. But a lot of players really appreciate patch notes. Me personally, it probably drives a lot of people to my channel to come look at patch notes videos, since there's nowhere else to find them other than howbazaar.gg's patch notes page, which most people don't know about. I don't really mind that much. it helps me, technically speaking. But patch notes are a good thing. It just seems like a bizarre choice to stop doing patch notes, especially in a version of the game with no codex. The codex has been in the works for like half a year now. We've officially launched the game without it, and now new players get to experience the joy of discovery as the strategies they are learning change in real time with no communication. It's a big feels bad, and I don't get why it's happening. Anyways, that'll be all. Thank God Vat of Acid is gone. Frankly, in the past like 2 weeks of game changes, I've had nothing but good things to say. It's only the communication surrounding them that feels bad. I look forward to seeing what sort of meta emerges now that Vat of Acid will no longer reign supreme, and I'm really interested in seeing what we'll get out of the next patch in about a week and a half, once we finally get the first patch of the official launch, and see how that changes the balance. For now though, my confusion about lack of communication aside, I'm thrilled about the state of the game. It's been a blast and launch so far, and I hope everyone else is having a good time too. Anyways, thank you for your time. I'll see all of you on the ladder, and see you in the next one. Oh, and if you wanted to like and subscribe before you go, that'd be pretty sick.